Alright guys, so now that we got the basic functions taken care of to handle and unpack just a simple Ethernet frame, what we can do now is we can start working on our main function. So this is essentially our main program, and all it's going to do is it's essentially just going to be a big loop. And this loop is just going to run forever as long as our program's running, and it's just going to sit and listen for packets to come in. So it's just going to keep looping forever, waiting for packets to come in, and whenever they do, we're pretty much going to extract all the information from it and display it to the user or do whatever we want with it. So that is what we're doing essentially. And before we can actually start that loop, we're just going to make a simple socket. So we need a socket, of course, so we can have connections with other computers. So I'm just going to call it connection equals socket dot socket. And if you guys don't know about sockets or anything like that, then I recommend you check out my Python reverse shell tutorials, or there's another Python series I made recently talking about sockets, but there's kind of a lot to cover, but I talk about it all in that. So, alright. So the first one is just AF, just the packet, and socket. Where are you at? Just the raw data and socket dot nths3. Alright. So if you guys know about sockets, then, and if you watch my other tutorial series, you're going to know what those first two arguments are. This last one I actually didn't talk about. This last one, make sure that it's compatible with all machines. Again, making sure that big Indian, little Indian, converting it properly, pretty much making sure the byte order is correct so we can read it. So after this, once we have just a raw socket, we can go ahead and start our main loop. Now remember, our main loop, and actually let me go ahead and call main now so I don't forget. Alright, so again, what our main loop is going to do is it's just going to keep looping and looping, an infinite loop, looping forever, and it's just going to listen for any data that comes across. Now, once it comes across, we're going to take raw data, going to make that variable, and also the address, and we're just going to write receive from, and the biggest buffer size that you can have is 65535. So basically that's what we're doing. We're taking our socket, whenever it gets something, whenever it sees information, we're just going to go ahead and receive it all, and then we're going to store it in the variable data and address. And why is this indentation? Go ahead and format that. Alright, are you freaking happy now? Alright, so that's what we're going to do. And remember, this is just the address of wherever it's sending to, or the source, and this is the actual data that we're going to be passing into Ethernet frame. So remember, this function right here is going to unpack it all and pretty much give us the cool information of whatever we want. So remember, the Ethernet frame, it returns 4 different chunks. It returns the destination, the source, the Ethernet type or Ethernet protocol, and the actual payload or the cool stuff inside. So what we can do from here is just write something like dest mac and source mac, and then what am I going to call this? Let's just call this eth proto, and the actual data. So now we can go ahead, well, I'm not that lazy. Alright, so Ethernet frame raw data. Alright, so again, what we're doing is taking that data that comes across the network, and that's just the pulses of ones and zeros, passing it to our function, and we're going to extract all of that stuff and store it in nice, awesome variables that we can use. So now let's go ahead and make sure that this works up to this point by printing something out. So let me just print out like a Ethernet frame. Oops, knocked over my mouse. I actually have a vertical mouse. If you guys look on like Google Images, type in vertical mouse. It's like this weird tall mouse, but I need to use it because I started having like carpal tunnel symptoms. So I'm sure no one cares about that. So I'm just going to keep going on with my tutorial now. All right. So for this, what we can do is we can just print out the destination, the source, and the protocol, because we're going to be dealing with the data later because there's a bunch of stuff we need to do to it. So I'll just write destination and then I'll write source. Then I'll write protocol. Who is sexting me in the middle of my video? All right. So I'm just going to format this in the video on format. All right. So if you guys never seen these curly braces before, basically they're just placeholders and you can format it in kind of weird ways. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to have placeholders right here, and what's going to go in these placeholders, well, just whatever you wrote right here. And remember, in this point, the MAC addresses are properly formatted already thanks to this function right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and open a browser and refresh some page and check it out. All right. So right now what we did is we extracted the destination, the source, and the protocol. So this protocol right here, this 8, that's the one that we're really concerned about because that's just normal, what you would think of as just like normal internet traffic. So that's where we're going to be focusing on. But right now it looks like everything is working fine. But now that the boring Ethernet data is taken care of, what we can do is we can start breaking up the main payload and start trying to figure out what websites they're going to, what information they typed in, you know, whose Facebook profile they're looking at, all that fun stuff. So that's what we have to look forward to. I will see you guys in the next video.